Just accept that. Well, a quick sort of breeze through, but I have a couple of really good resources for people who don't have experience in dementia and who would like more information. So I'll share those towards the end. We'll just do a little arrival exercise. Then I'll talk about how I started, how I became to work in this area, working with people with dementia. We'll look at what dementia actually is, not in scientific detail, but in general terms, and how it impacts people. We might have, we'll have a little bit of reflection, and you consider after I talk about that sort of what the needs of the people who have dementia might be. Then we'll do a movement, little movement sequence. We'll go through a warm-up, a welcome, an introduction and a warm-up, talk about beginnings and endings, and then some general stuff about how a group develops and the use of props. Now, I've also have 2 videos that I'd like to show you. So, as I said, I'll try and get to those. One of them involves Maeve, and it's a wonderful, instructive piece that shows ways that dance movement therapists connect with people with quite advanced dementia. And the other one is just a general group there. I'm also providing those links, so I don't know if you're sharing the PowerPoint's not detailed, but it does have those links to the videos if people are interested. And then we'll hopefully have time for questions. So, welcome everybody, nice to have you here. I just was saying before, we're going through really heavy rain episodes today in Sydney, so if it gets loud, just, I'm sorry about that. Let's just put our feet on the ground, because I need to do that too. And just wherever you are, you can be standing or seated, it doesn't matter. And, that's the sort of thing you consider in dementia. I actually always start seated because that equalises the group. If some people are unable to sit, if everybody's sitting, then we start from the same place. So just feeling the ground underneath, or the floor underneath your feet, feeling your tailbone, and let your spine lengthen up through the centre of between the ears, and let your arms rest, and bring your attention into your body. So we're going to transition. This is equally important for the therapist as it is for the client, to leave behind whatever's just been happening. And in residential dementia care, a lot can be happening before people actually arrive in the space. So we want to make time for them to transition, not just launch into the session. So just bringing your attention to your body, and notice what's here right now. Anything, any tension, any pain, any feelings of elation, could be emotions, could be thoughts that are still ruminating around in your head. And just allow yourself to be present with those without judging them, as we make the transition from wherever you've been into this little space to inhabit the world of dementia, hopefully for not too long. So allow your breath to come into your body. Just notice how your breath is right now. Again, really important, no judgment. There isn't, in the dementia space, there is not a right way to do anything. There might be a safer way, but there's not a right way. We want to make space for people to be who they are. Just noticing that your embodied presence, who you are and what's present in you, is something that we need to be tracking through the session. When things can be emotionally dysregulated, things can happen that are unexpected, it's important to come back to your own body and just check in with you and regulate yourself so that you're able to hold the group. I am talking about, I work with groups, so that's what I'm talking about today. All right, so just when you're ready, you can come back. into the space. I'll just tell you a little bit about me. Some of you know very much about me and some not at all. So, but in terms of how I came to working with people with dementia, I'd done my training. It's about maybe 20 years ago, I started my dance movement therapy training in Sydney, and I worked with children and I worked with people with disabilities and people with addictions and mental health issues in a private psychiatric hospital. And then I did because I'd been working in marketing for about 20 years, I went, oh, we have an ageing population. Let me see if I can get into aged care, because there's going to be lots of demand for work, which obviously during COVID wasn't such a sensible idea, or didn't appear to be. But there was need. There was a lack of understanding of dance movement therapy, as we generally come across. And I marketed myself. I really insisted and rang, and it took 6 months until they let me in. And then I've gradually started at one place. I did one group, then another, until I was running 4 groups and then eventually on one day. I've just started back after 2 years, and I'm starting off with one group again. And some of whom the people are the same people. Some of them, their dementia has progressed. So that's kind of, and then after I went into this aged care, I've worked in day centres, which are quite good place to work. Just weekly sessions with people who come from their homes. And as I said, in residential care, but all of my work in aged care has been in dementia care, because people who are older and independent generally don't want to be in a group where there's anybody with dementia. They don't feel that that's right for them. And I think there's a whole other body of work for older people, which is, I know, being developed in the dance community, but I think there's great opportunity there. I think that dance movement therapy is really very specifically helpful for people with dementia. That's my experience. Last year, I also worked with Catholic Care in a place called the Memory Innovation Centre, which was set up for people in the community and provided a multidisciplinary program with a physiotherapist, an art therapist, me as the dance movement therapist, and a couple of other, a dietitian and some other people. And it was a lovely program. Unfortunately, they've cut their funding and there's no longer any dance in the program, but it was very exciting to be invited to do it as our profession. So that's enough about me. I suppose just in general, my background was as a musician. I was a classical violinist, so a lot of my work is informed by music, and probably some of it looks like music therapy, or did in the early days. I also worked in marketing, so I'm very interested in communication, and this non-verbal communication thing really fascinates me. All right, let's talk about what dementia is. There's loads of information you can get. There's a site, Dementia Australia has fantastic resources, and there's also the University of Tasmania has a research centre dedicated to dementia called the Wicking Dementia Centre, and they run 2 free training programs every year that you can do online. One of them's Understanding Dementia, the other one Preventing It. I recommend the first one, but it's really worth the time. Lots and lots of current research is discussed and information, all the science stuff, they do really well. So dementia is a set of symptoms. It's caused by disorders of the brain. So I think there's something like, there's in the hundreds of types of dementia. They have all different ways of impacting the brain. Some just affect motor skills, others language, some it's a general degeneration. of the body's function, but they're all really different. Alzheimer's is the most prevalent form of dementia and the most known, but Alzheimer's isn't the whole. It's fine not to know maybe which forms of dementia people have, but if you're working in advanced dementia, like I do in one unit, it's really good to know more about which form of dementia people are living with, so that you can really understand how they might behave or what might occur or what their needs might be as you go along. There's no cure for dementia at the moment, and there's no reversible possible. So we can improve and prevent progression at the moment, but it's not possible to undo the damage that's already done. In Australia, the Dementia Australia says 500,000 people are living with dementia at the moment. 10% of those are under the age of 65 and 70% of them live in the community. What that means is the people who are in residential care are more advanced. They're either moderate to advanced dementia. So just know that if you go and look for work there. People in the community will be sort of along that early to moderate trajectory, probably. So people, and this is possibly people diagnosed or that they know of, but there's a lot of people in the community who are not, their dementia is not acknowledged and it's not diagnosed. So there's a lot of people struggling as they age with the effects of this. And we're expecting that dementia will double. The number of people with dementia will double in the next 30 years. So, you know, that's good for dance movement therapists. If you're working in that area, there will be more need, if we want to put it that way. The effects on people's brains or on their functioning, it affects their memory, it affects their thinking and planning, communication. They become confused about time and place. It affects sight and balance. And a lot of people become withdrawn. And this is all on top of the normal aging process. So we, you know, as our bones change and our muscles weaken and our hormones shift and all of that sort of thing is normal part of aging. This is on top. And I've covered that there, but not everybody has everything. So some people can communicate really well. Some people have fabulous balance and physical skills, but they have no clue where they are. I worked with about 12 people last Friday, and it's a really diverse group of people. Maybe 3 out of the 12 were sort of mobile to the point where I didn't have to worry about them or hold on to them. And somebody thought they were sitting next to a man, and it was actually a woman. They'd attached themselves. So there's all this stuff, and someone was really agitated, so really pacing and everything. So we, you know, holding a group, just consider you don't want too big a group because it can be quite a lot to hold. And that's not even mentioning the emotional responses that may change. In terms of how, so that's like looking at how it might affect people. And as well, we think about in aging, if we're in a living with older people completely, there's a lot of grief, a lot of unexpressed grief in the place. People can die, and then everyone gets wheeled into the session just the same as if nothing happened. So in the dementia space, it's not even something you can always talk about. So it's worth, if you're told about it, you might not be, just, you know, just considering that that's in the field in which you're working. People are disconnected from their families. Had a 94-year-old dance teacher in that group, and she's frustrated because her physical self isn't what it used to be. But she got up and helped me with people. She actually assisted. So she started off by going, I can't do anything, and then ended up being my helper. That's always good. So what are the needs of the group? Really, I think about a few really basic things. So we're not here to do anything tricky. We know that we can't fix these, we can't cure this, these symptoms necessarily, people living with, but we can help them to be their best selves. We can make a place where they're more comfortable and confident just being themselves with whatever's there. Stress reduction is hugely important. And if people are calm, their brain, with whatever function it has, will work better. If people are very stressed, their brain won't function at all. And that's not even people with dementia. My mother has been through a period in the last few years where she looked like she had dementia, but she wasn't. She was just in a stressful environment. And when she got taken out of that, she was fine. So, you know, just know that not always is it dementia. So stress reduction, really important. Social connection is massively important. People are diagnosed with dementia, they can be ashamed, they can be depressed, they become anxious because they're not sure of what's happening, and they disconnect from people. People move away from them when they feel uncomfortable. I don't know how to be with someone with dementia. Like, what does that mean? And will they not remember me? And that feels uncomfortable. So it's not just the person themselves that withdraws, it's their whole network can change. And then if you go into care, you don't know anybody. So that's, you know, disorienting also. Physical exercise, massively important for brain function, is oxygen. So we want to get people, you know, we can, in our work, we can trick people into exercising. It's dancing and it's fun and it's moving to music, but actually if we design our sessions enough, we can get, 10 to 20 minutes of continuous exercise in. That's really helpful to people's brain function. They need a safe place. They need safety to feel okay, to feel calm, to be able to participate. So consider the room that you're in. Consider having to stand up for people in your staff for interrupting or going past, and that's really important. Also, if we start with people out, that's safe. If we offer activities that they can't do, that's not safe. It just feels like they'll just shut down. My intent is that I want to know about people. I love people's stories. You know, I used to make a living out of it, but I create a space, and 2 weeks ago I heard about someone who used to live next door to Ralph Vaughan Williams, the composer in England. So I love those stories, you know, and people talk about when they met their partner at a dance, and if we invite them to move, often the stories come out. So we want to make space. There's no right way, as I said. There's no right way to be. Let's, be yourself. When we start, I invite people often to make a gesture. We might do this in a second, and that's really about looking at how everybody's different. We can see that in the circle. We want them to, if they've been shut down and disconnected and not speaking to anyone much, they really won't have a sense of who they are anymore. And if their memory's flagging. So we want to be able to build that, oh, you're the person who loves to dance really, do rock and roll really amazingly, and all the steps. We want to make space for that so that they go, yeah, that's who I am. Variety builds brain function. So I believe we can build new neural pathways, but with an expectation that's not going to be radical change. But variety helps people kind of get function back again, and providing mental little sequences for mental challenges. Also consider something you come across in residential care is that for every person with dementia, there's a bunch of people who've been caring for them or family members, and you may come across them in your work. So that's a little bit. What I'd like you to do before we, I've got a little bit more talking and then we'll get moving. Just consider this question. How might dance movement therapy, as for those of you who do like doing it, learning it, understand about it, how might dance movement therapy be helpful for people living with dementia? So I'm going to invite you, because it's difficult to do a discussion, but how might this way of working be helpful with people living with dementia, and in what ways? So just consider, maybe have a little reflection and just write something down, and we can pop those into the chat in a minute. So how might dance movement therapy be helpful for people living with dementia, and in what ways? If you understand. You might also, I'll just interrupt for a sec, you might consider people living at home with it or in care, and people who are younger and versus older. Actually, maybe let's, you can either put in the chat or you can put your hand up. We can take a few. People might just want to share something. Okay, Tony would like. Hi, Tony.
Hi, thanks, Robyn. That was all great. I've been doing a little bit of work in a aged care centre myself, and just echoing, lovely to have all of the things I've noticed echoed. So thank you for that. I think one of the things I've noticed particularly is the smiles, the pleasure, for people who are often kind of just, as you said, a bit isolated, a bit lost, and putting on some music, particularly things that they recognise. In fact, I had one woman sort of suddenly appear. She said, I'm supposed to be in my room writing letters, but I couldn't resist. And I thought, oh, how good's that? So I think it's that pleasure is really important. You know, when you see a few smiles, I take that as a really positive sign. And given that they're in an aged care centre, a residence, it's something different for them. I think the novelty of having someone come in who's a bit out of their regular daily routine, and of course that doesn't have to be dance movement therapy, but I've noticed that that's stimulating as well.
Yeah, thanks, Tony. I'll just read, Debbie Scarf has said joyfulness in the day and triggering the memories, connection and a sense of belonging as moving together in a group. And I'll just add that one of the places I used to work at, I believed we had developed a little community, and it was the dance therapy community, and people had this, it was almost like a club, and the 99-year-old lady in the place would go and get people and bring them. But we had the same people for like 3 years, and it felt like I really belonged to that, identified with it. Judith, enliven, stimulation and interest, absolutely. You can see how this like gets people out of sort of routine. Connor, building memory in the group, remembering, reminiscing, absolutely. I forgot that. I forgot the joy, of course, and the thing I think that's one of the keys, actually. I probably should have put that first. Vitality, yeah. People come to life. We'll see that in a minute. Energy provides an example or model of what carers can do more of, and that's really great if they're hanging around and if they pay any attention. Encouraging self-confidence, this is from Rachel. Improving mental health in turn improves relationships and inclusiveness. And body awareness, yes, and body awareness can affect people's motor skills and confidence. Sense of self from Mary Claude, Julianne. Some movement and music evokes memories that will help them reconnect with the self. Absolutely. And often that's the key. That's when people start to tell their stories. Just a piece of music can open that door. Personalities come to the surface. Tammy, absolutely. I love that. There's some funny, I've had some really funny people over the years, like crazy, eccentric, and it's like, I think, bring more of that, come on in. But in the unit, they're not welcome. They're seen to be too much. But in our group, we can make some of that. Grace, I have witnessed special moments of connection, absolutely. Building meaningful relationships. Probably Maeve or Angela. Yeah, there's this lot of the connection, the recognition of who they are, the memories, you know, re-evoking, bringing people back in. It's like they, you know, interesting also, dance movement therapy includes music. So music therapists are about. I know at one place I ended up given, like, I guess my job covered both at one point. The music therapist wasn't doing any movement, and it was not reaching people, that particular, what she was offering. Somehow we've got, I think, a much broader kit bag to bring into the space to encourage people. Discovery of movement range versus being seated, almost emotionless, yeah, and motionless. Interesting, last week also, we thought we'd mix it up. People, where I went, has 2 rooms. One of them's the lounge room, one of them's the dining room. We actually emptied the dining room of tables. So we moved it, we opened it up, put the circle of chairs in. It's a much nicer room, has a lovely outlook with trees outside. So we basically changed the expected environment. It annoyed a couple of the staff a bit. We had the best session. It was a lovely space, and we just had to, you know, I didn't even have to do it, but maybe I will sometimes move a few chairs and tables. And that's okay. In aged care, the chairs and tables aren't heavily weighted like in extreme mental health, which I've had lately. Yes, that's right. Annoyed the staff and delighted the clients. I just kind of smiled as someone was annoyed that I was a bit in their way, but I went, no, we're having a great old time. All right. So to explain, before we move, I just want to explain the range of people that I work around. I wouldn't say work with. In residential aged care, more and more, there's people, but they're not working with you. In fact, my feeling is often they're glad you're there so they can go and do something else. It's another story. I always go to the management to seek work, but the manager is someone I might then check in with periodically, but not someone I work with every day. There's usually someone like a lifestyle coordinator. They have all sorts of recreational activity officer, somebody who kind of is meant to tap into the individual needs of the people and their everyday life activities in the place. Where I've just started back again, they're actually going to do away with the lifestyle people, and they're going to incorporate that into their normal care. So I'm very, very, very sad. Because most of the carers don't have English as their first language, and that's no offence to them, but neither have they grown up in the same area as these people, so they don't know their culture and can't relate to things. So that's a little tricky. In some places there's a chaplain or there's pastoral care, so there's people, there's a minister, a chaplain one place and not at the other. He's been and his staff have been a great support to me over the years, really helpful people to tap into. There's unit managers, people who manage, maybe 40 beds or something. Then there's a nurse, usually one only on a unit, a registered nurse. Then there's carers. So they're the people that run around doing the personal care, cleaning the rooms, doing functional care. Then you might see physiotherapists and podiatrists coming in and often maybe interrupting your session. There might be volunteers. So occasionally there's volunteers or there's trainee nurses or something, and I just welcome them all in, come on in. You can't watch. No one watches when I'm around. You have to do it or go away. I just feel that that's a safer way of working. And family members, occasionally family members wander in and I welcome them in too. I also might find a family member having a bit of a sad moment in the hallway or something, and I just often have a chat to them and support them as well. But I don't get paid to do that, but I feel like they're part of the whole of the person that's there. All right, we're going to do some movement. Some of this might look like something you do with anybody, or someone with disabilities. There's no rocket science in what we're doing, but there's a transition. It's important not to go too quickly into the dance movement, to come into the body and then start to move it gently and then start to then extend out from there. And based on the energy of the group, you then kind of temper where you go with that. Sometimes they're not into much and sometimes they've got a lot of energy, and it's great to tap into that. So because I've got a bit of an issue with my Zoom, I'm going to ask Maeve if she wouldn't mind. We're going to do I'm going to do little pieces. I'm not going to do it like a continuous session, but I'm going to just start with playing the first track if that's possible, Maeve.
Yep.
So you imagine, sorry?
Is that the other?
Yes. It has a few seconds or it doesn't do anything. So I'm going to invite you to imagine you've just been either wheeled in or walked in a little sort of line of people into a room and sat down at a chair or arranged, and there's a bit of rearranging going on. And while this is, I might play the music to start with, or I might play it afterwards, but I will always go around the group and say hello to people and use their names. People don't always remember their own names, but when you use them repeatedly, they respond. They recognise their name even if they can't tell you what it is. So this is where the language and understanding is complicated. It's complex. So I would go around, and then is that music on?
Oh, I'll put it on there.
Thank you. All right. So we're in our chairs, and I'm going to do what I started with. So make a little bit of space for you. Make sure you're not going to hit anything. We're not going to leap about, but put our feet on the ground, and we're going maybe stamp the feet a little bit. Humour is really important. Just, and then people can laugh if they're stamping their feet, being a bit silly, and wiggle your bottom, feel the chair underneath you. And we want to invite maximum lung capacity for people who are very static. It's all about the oxygen, in my view. And actually there is research about physical activities for people with dementia, and it really talks about aerobic activity being really important, and that's for the oxygen. So we're sitting here and we just breathing in and breathing out. So in your own time, breathing in through the nose and out through the mouth. And allow yourself to settle. Noticing the music, you can adjust your volume up and down if you need to. You might just roll the shoulders a little and rest the hands. So just rest the hands in your lap so that they're not working. Just breathing in, breathing out. It's a very slow invitation to come into the body. All right, I'm going to invite, I'm using 3 dimensions, just allowing people to float their arms up. So in the 3 dimensions, there's a little bit of moving out of your own space into the space around you. Thinking about the vertical. You might notice your feet on the ground as you reach up. And I often do this gradually. A lot of older people have really, really tricky shoulders and can't move up very far. So we maybe do it 4 times, a little bit more each time. And if you can, you reach right up and look up to the ceiling. And if you can't, you go to where you get to and just stay there. Right? But otherwise, reaching up, feeling that length through the spine and floating down again. So let's go to the side. Oh, actually, rubbing the knees. And just maybe folding forward, let your hands slide down your shins. And then back up again. And again, and this is a little passive hamstring stretch, which you'll find that people get quite flexible quite quickly if you do this every time. Coming up. Maybe go down if you've got room, and you can let your head just hang. Have a breath and then rolling up. And then opening to the side. Now think about how close you sit people in your circle when you're doing this. I always joke, don't hit anyone in the nose with your arms. Give yourself a hug. So if you think about that, let the elbows drop, just soften onto the chest. Again, another little joke. We don't get enough hugs, let's give ourselves a hug. And there is a science that if you hold your shoulders like that, it does have an impact of settling the nervous system. So just that, really let the shoulders drop away, yes. We'll do one more out to the side. Now what might happen is people might touch each other. They might shake hands. They might go, oh, there's someone there. So we're opening up their awareness to they're actually not on their own. Little things like that. Just rolling the shoulders and bring your hands to your heart. I like to do this one. I had a heart surgeon once and he always put his hands on the right-hand side. But anyway, he had quite advanced dementia. Let's breathe into the heart and then reach in front of you, out from your heart. And this is maybe across to the other side of the circle, so that you go, oh, this, my friend is over the other side. I can see that. Coming back, breathing in. And this is our sagittal plane. Reaching out. The one to the side was the horizontal, the plane of communication. This is of action. So we haven't gone behind, but just rolling the shoulders. And just let your one heel forward. You can't see my heels, but I'm just lengthening the back of my knee. Heel forward can be on the ground or it can be lifted, and then bend the knee again, then the other heel forward. Often good not to have left or right, just let people do one and then the other. So we sort of make things less liable to get wrong. Little things like that make a difference. I think the next piece of music might come on now. Is that have I got the Scottish one next or no?
Yeah, do you want that to play?
Yes, please. All right, let's get up. How do we get people sort of moving? We entice them.
Get your Woolies worth for Easter with great specials like Cadbury Large Bunny, 250 to 270 grams, now $4 each. That's half price. It's just another.
Sorry, there's an ad there.
That's right. All right, so we're actually going to, this works really well seated as well, but is to get people's lower bodies moving. All right, so we're going to march. So bagpipes, marching music seems to appeal. Lots of people have marched in their childhood at school in Australia. don't know, can't speak for other countries. So let's just feel that rhythm in your feet. Can be seated or standing. Very steady rhythm, repeating over and over. And we can get the arms moving. I might add something like lift your knee up, or changing it up. And if you're doing that, you might touch the lifted knee. All of this in your chair. And just back to just marching. And if you were standing, you might do forwards and back. You can go to the chair as well. Very, very plain, direct rhythm. Maybe let the feet have a rest, and we might just do the arms. So bringing up straight arm, just up to the shoulder, one or the other. Back to the marching. And if somebody was a little bit lacking in confidence with their balance, they could stand behind a chair. They could stand behind a chair, hold on, and still actually do the activity. So we'll just stop that. Okay, so I'm going to explain. This might not strictly fit with the 5-part plan, but so I've already introduced with the marching, I've already introduced my theme that I'm going to talk about of pathways. And pathways is about direct, indirect, if we want to put it at simplest. And so what we've just done is something that's just steady rhythm, very straightforward, very direct. We can march across a room and back again. We can play with that as a group. We had a mobile group. We could get them to go forwards, backwards, sideways. We could play with angles, with straight lines, and play with that, just to some music like that. And talk about, and sometimes it is possible with early dementia to talk about, you know, like, who are you in the world? How do you get from A to B? Are you someone that's always like straight there? Do you never look, you know, you don't stop to smell the roses? Or are you the person that gets distracted at every turn and you spend a lot of time getting to the other side and you remember something else and get sidetracked? So sometimes that's just even, people, we laugh about that. People go, oh yeah, you know, that person's always just, you know, straight to it. And some cultures are like that too, more so. And so by talking about that, there's an element of embracing it, appreciating it, including it, not saying it's wrong, but just saying that people, like saying people are different. And so there's that sort of, then perhaps there's even maybe in the staff that help, a bit of an appreciation that people are unique. So in taking that idea about the pathways, I'm going to ask Maeve to find the two Gypsies music, please.
Two Gypsies. Yep.
So I'll just say something first. So what now, and you know, I've got my trusty scarves here in the background, so we can, if you've got anything around, you can have one of those on standby. But if we've done the straight pathways, now we have looking at curved pathways, at spirals, at circles, and giving people an experience of that. So we might start just with the wrists and we move circling the wrists. And I provide my music, and then in this case, might start, because I'm building body awareness, to name different body parts, and we'll circle those joints, circle those body parts, and then make a space for improvisation. Now you're giving them some basic tools, and now, okay, let's have some fun. Let's create. It becomes like, it's like a dance performance, and people can come and can be asked to have a solo. They can interact with one another. We can pair people up even in chairs in 2s or 3s, and they can dance together with something like this, with the right music, the right little mini framework or script that gives them a starting point. And then if they don't do it, it doesn't matter. It's just, then, you know, that's just, you give it a go and see what happens. So let's play the music, and I'm going to invite you just to start with your wrists. Just circling, and we don't have to get it right, just the idea of it. One or both. Quite quickly. And we'll take that to the elbows. So I just want to demonstrate what I might do. Do a little bit of that. Some people won't know where their elbows are. That's okay. You're demonstrating. They're visually watching you and other people. They'll pick it up. Shoulders. Find your own way. And actually we're lubricating the joints while we're doing this. There's another benefit. Movement begets movement. Right. And you might rotate from side to side. You might invite the head, little circles. Often don't want to invite too much in the head. Circling. And you find if people start to figure of eights, whatever, with that, if you've got a scarf, playing with that. You could hand a scarf around one person at a time and let them do it all 3 minutes. 10 seconds of a solo and then pass it on. No, that could be lovely. Everyone's focusing on one person and they get to be the leader. Right. So you might, your knees, you can rotate your knees obviously through the hip or the hips. The bottom and the hips moving, circling. Usually if you do that with any population, they usually have a bit of a giggle, moving. You know, and I don't come as an expert. I'm not a belly dancer. This is belly dance music and we're playing with circles and spirals and curves. If we were to continue, we can circle, if you hold on, I can circle my ankles, keep them going as well. We're warming up the joints now. If you were to take it into the room, you can use the props. We can also say to people, try and make that circular spiral pathway on the floor. And where are you going? Around, or if you could imagine it as a drawing. Play with that. And play with someone else. So you might see someone here on the screen. Follow something that someone else is doing. Because we're just a facilitator. Once everyone starts moving, there's so much stimulus that starts to feed on itself, and it's really lovely. And we're not the expert, and people soon get that idea. Thank you, Maeve. I think that's let's have a quick, and all right, so the beginnings are very important and the ends very important. So I'll give you my ending, 3 deep breaths together. And I always do that at the end of every session with people in dementia, and that marks the end. It's the sort of thing you might do also with children with a disability, and it just gets a very concrete way of saying we're done now. So we just breathe in, allow that circling movement just to resonate in your body still, and breathe out. We'll do 2 more. If you have got this little observation on, you might find in the beginning when we first did our little opening moves that people weren't very open or flexible in the shoulders, and you might suddenly go, oh wow, like everybody's got their arms up here. So just notice how much it can actually do for people just to kind of enjoy themselves, to have music, to movement, the social aspect. It can be really powerful. So we haven't got a lot of time left, but I would like to show a picture of the octoband, which I think is, I've got that, haven't I? No, actually I won't. I'm going to show your clip, Maeve. I think this is really, really beautiful, and it's about a minute and something long, and we might look at it twice. And I'd just like you to see someone, this is like, you know, it's not commercially edited and made, you know, this is real life, and it's, so have you got, can you find the link there, or I think I sent it on an email.
Do you want me to share it, Robyn?
Yes, please.
Do you want me to do the whole lot from the beginning, or did you want to start?
Just your one.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's only a minute and something. Yeah. All right, so stay in your own bodies, be noticing what comes up for you as you listen and watch, and notice how Maeve is working with the residents.
Marge, are you Marge? You go Marge? Marge. Marge. She's waiting. Well, Marge. I think she'll come over now.
Thanks, Maeve. That may have been a little stilted what you saw, but I hope that it's clear. Would anybody just like to pipe up with what one thing they saw Maeve doing that shows how a dance movement therapist might work? Yeah. Connor?
She was using her full body range, but she was getting at a lower level so that she started with whoever was giving her the most movement and then just kept including everybody in the group. It was like a flower pedaling where you go here, you know, but still paying attention to the person who was really the impetus for that movement, but bringing everybody in.
Thanks, Connor.
It's beautiful. Thank you.
A good example of one of the things that people often struggle with initially is how to include everybody and work with individuals. It's a bit of an art. It's a dance. You could see that. Anybody else?
Can I say?
Yeah.
So one thing that I'm really struck with in that clip is how Maeve connects and attunes with the people through body, but also through the facial expressions. So there's always a connection, might be connecting with one person through the physical and with the other person through the eye connection, the eyes and the smiles, and even with the sound, like Marge, calling Marge into the circle with her voice as well. So there's connection on all those levels.
There's sort of multiple sensory connections, isn't it? It's sort of, yeah, absolutely.
And the mirroring as well.
Yes.
Maeve going towards the person close to the window instead of staying with the group, but being there, present, and mirroring what she was doing as an inclusion and a connection.
It probably speaks to what Tony was mentioning before, but Marge was over on the side, but she was absolutely part of the group, doing her own thing, but connected through the rhythm. And that's where then Maeve moves in to acknowledge the rhythm. We didn't quite see that there's this beautiful little bit at the end where you take her hand and just bring her back into the group at the end, the end of the phrase. But yeah, anybody else before we move on?
Can I tell you what happened at the end of that session? So she came back into the centre and we danced, you know, like a ballroom dance for quite a long while, and then she sat down and then she just opened up and told the whole group about how wonderful it was to be here with among friends and how important friends were. She went on for about 10 minutes, I reckon. It was just amazing. And then 3 weeks later she died.
Oh my goodness me.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Amazing.
Yeah, these moments, that's what I call magic moments, and they're often at least one in a session that will happen, and they'll be unexpected and incredible, and that's why I do the work, I think, for those beautiful human moments. I'll just leave that there because it's like 11 o'clock, but I just wanted to say, in terms of, you know, what I do, I use the materials of dance and the creative process. I'm informed by attachment and trauma therapy principles in terms of providing safety as a starting point and forming a relationship. So whether other people in the organisation don't see it, I form very strong relationships with people on a non-verbal level, and even if they don't recognise their family, they might recognise me and what I do. So that's the body stuff that you could see Maeve doing, I believe. We start where they're at because that's the way they can't be wrong. You can probably hear the rain now. And tracking for emotional regulation. So I'm working not going too far into one energy, giving people time to regulate and to settle before we go off and do something active again. You're playing with the capacity of the group. After time, sometimes they become quite fit and quite able, but in the beginning you want to give people time to rest so that they don't spin out, which some people do. It's really all about the non-verbal in this population. Mirroring, attunement, eye contact, gesture, using people's names frequently, and touch. I put that in there is because we've been living for 2 years without touch, but I experienced it again last week of like being able to hold people's hands and maybe a hand on the shoulder, and how touch can really reassure and connect us as humans. I said in the beginning, it's really important that we monitor and observe our own body and our own reactions as part of the process so that we look after ourselves. This can be quite demanding work, and it's not always spoken. And as you can see by all the people around me, most of them I don't get to speak to for support. So having outside supervision is good. The chaplains, as I said, have been really good. And one of my lifestyle people has been an absolute godsend. She's been wonderful. We're working together again. So I think that's enough. We better get going. I haven't really left any time for questions, but it's up to you guys. And to hear what everybody's response is.
Thank you, Robyn. That was lovely presentation and lot to think about. Yeah, if anybody's got any questions, I'm sure we can go a little bit over. Or if anybody has to go, just go. But if anyone's got any questions for Robyn, go ahead.
Maybe I've answered everything.
I think everyone's satisfied.
That's probably a 2 to 3 hour session packed into one. So as I said, I've given some other links that Maeve can share and a couple of websites to go and get information on dementia if you're starting out. It's important. It's actually important to know a little bit. And to also, if you are starting out, it can take a little time to get used to how people are and how to connect. And so be kind to yourselves if you're doing it for the first time. Once you get it, it's kind of like riding a bike, really, I think. I just know that I enjoy being around people with dementia and other people don't. So that's good for me.
Robyn, do you find that your group tends to have a certain number of like physically able versus those in wheelchairs or those, and because you were talking about, you got us up to March, and I'm sure there's plenty of clients who are still in wheelchairs or don't have that, or they've got walking frames. And so I'm just wondering, do you try to manage some of the standing up more with a smaller group while you're managing the ones that need to be seated, or just curious about that.
What I do, Connor, is I might start the activity all seated. So I might do all the marching in a chair, and then those who can, I go, come on, let's get up. Or if you want to go behind a chair, we make it a bit more interesting. And then the people in the chairs can still march and still do everything, but the other people can move around the space. So I tend not to do it in a way that it only is for a few. So I'll do it for everybody and then extend it from there. Somebody asked me about masks. I've been working in a mask and shield and last week, and that when it was really humid, it was pretty crazy because it's like condensation inside. And of course, people who are a little bit deaf can't hear you through those layers. They can't see your face, facial expressions. Last week was just a mask. So I'm using my eyes and my eyebrows a lot more and my gestures. So it's kind of, and it's taxing on the voice actually. So sort of making time for not talking is good, which is hard for me. I probably have to run, Maeve, run off to my next slide.
Thank you, Robyn. That was,
I appreciate everybody being here. It was lovely to have you all participating, and yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Robyn.
See you all again soon.
Yep, we'll see you, and keep an eye out for next time. Do you remember who we've got, Angela? I can't remember.
Mary Claude, I think, will also follow up on more about dementia with her from her experience. So
yeah.
It's Dementia Month in the conversations.
Absolutely. Okay. Well, thank you guys. I'll see you. Bye.